I think there's steam coming off my head right now. I just came off a podcast with Mr. Rudy Ricksteins, and today's proverb, which is Proverb 13 in Inchstones, was all about building people. And I tell you, it was right in line. If you haven't got a chance to be able to listen to that podcast, go back one episode 454, and experience this. This guy is unbelievable, one of the top speakers in the world, and I was absolutely blown away. I want to welcome you to Inchstones. I'm your host, Kelly Cardenas. If you're tuning in for the first time, we've got an entire playlist of all the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. That's what we go through. We call them little Inchstones, little tiny things that you could do today that will pile up over time and become those milestones. And it's, again, I think that there's probably steam or coming off my head, or there's my ears are red. I mean, it's just like this time with Rudy was unbelievable. We've also got coming soon the Vibe Room, which the Vibe Room is going to be on July 23rd in Salt Lake City. It's actually sold out, so you can get excited about it and plan for the next time because it's completely sold out. I want to thank our alliance partners, Sondor Real Estate Group. That's Kevin Borland has that. Patrick Packer has Packer Insurance, and Sage Mortgage Advisors, Justin Williams. And more than the companies are phenomenal in Sondor Real Estate Group and Packer Insurance and Sage Mortgage Advisors. But the people behind them are the real reason why the companies succeed at the level that they do. Mr. Kevin Borland, Patrick Packer, and Justin Williams, thank you so much for being our alliance partners. We're also going to have a special guest, which is Roy Tuscany, the founder of the High Fives Foundation, helps spinal cord injury victims to be able to experience things that they never would otherwise. And to have Roy Tuscany there, this guy is an absolute ball of energy. So Proverbs 13, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, today is all about what my pops taught me from a very early age, that there's only one business in the world and one business only, and that's the people business. If you build the people and allow the people to build the business, your success will be exponential. Let's get this party started.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Welcome back to Inchstones. It's Proverbs 13, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And it's all about building people. And I had an experience with my daughter yesterday. We went down to San Diego Airport, and I had switched flights with my son back from Orlando. And our bags didn't make it on the flight, so we had to go down and pick up the bags. Well, the bags are probably 30, 40 miles from here, which is, I live in Carlsbad, California, the greatest place in the world. Although, forget about that because we don't want anyone to move here. But it's about 40 minutes down to the airport. And my 15-year-old daughter said yes to be able to come. And, we laughed so much, and she has such a phenomenal personality. McKenna is just such a light and a joy. And I didn't realize the things that kids have to deal with today. And so she had been talking with this little boy, back and forth, whatever it was. And, he didn't step to the plate. And she told me, she's like, oh, did I tell you about my friend wrote a diss track about the guy? And I was like, what? A diss track? And so I want to thank you, Kendrick Lamar and Drake, for adding a completely different element. I mean, this was not something that I had to deal with if I didn't act right to a girl. I wasn't in fear of a diss track, but my daughter said diss track. I said, what are you talking about? She's like, turn down the music. Let me turn on the the background music, and she turns on like an instrumental background music, and she starts it off. And you know how in hip hop, which I'm a huge fan of, the rapper will try and catch the beat a little bit, so they'll be like gang gang, and my daughter said that. So here's this 15-year-old girl, my daughter, and she's like the diss track, and she hears the music, and she's like gang gang, and then she goes into dissing this boy, and it was written by her friend. It blew my mind. And what it brought me to this morning was the whole message was building people. And what I understand more than ever is something that a guy named Cole taught me in my men's group, and it's that things are caught, not taught. And it's funny because to see her personality, see my daughter's personality, she caught that from my wife. My wife is very much that way. Like I told my wife last night before we went to bed, I said, every single day you do something that makes me fall in love with you more, and to realize, how awesome you are. And she's like, yep, you're lucky. And then she's like, so she laughs at it, but her personality and her, and her sense of humor, my daughter has caught that. It's not that my wife sat down with her and taught her all these things. She caught it. And that goes right along with building people. If you want to build people, it's not about what you're going to teach them. It's going to be about what they catch from seeing you and watching you. And so when I started off with this today in Proverbs 13, as I read it, it read a little bit different, had a twist at the end. So you have to stay all the way until the end to hear the twist, because I literally, and this is the way that God works with me, I believe that he has a great personality and a phenomenal sense of humor. And I don't know how you like your sweet baby Jesus, but I like mine with wings, and I like mine with a funny personality. And so he took me down this realm, and then he had a little twist at the end. So let's jump right into it. The first thing is if we're going to build people, you have to know who and how to heed instruction. And this is in verse 1, 13, 14, 18, and 20. And when I say who, you got to be conscious of the people that you listen to. This is what I was reading in Proverbs 13. You got to be conscious of this. And so in Proverbs 13, verse 1, it says, a wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a mocker does not respond to rebukes. And so it started off that way and said, number one, who do you listen to and how do you heed? Heeding instruction is not just listening to it, but it's actually applying it. So that was a big one. The second one in building people was about speaking life. And in speaking life, it's in verse 2 and 3 of Proverbs 13. It talks about speaking life. And so I just want to give you a little context here. From the fruit of their lips, people will enjoy good things, but the unfaithful have an appetite for violence. And so speak life, speak life, speak life. How do we speak life? How can we do this? We can use somebody's name and say something specific to them, why they inspired you or why you feel the way that you do about them. I tell you, you do this, if you speak life and then you write life down, you write a letter to someone, do it today, write a letter, specifically use their name and something that they did yesterday that inspired you. And I guarantee you the difference that it will make will be absolutely phenomenal. If you want to build people, you got to be you got to teach them to be diligent. And so in being diligent is in verse 4, and diligent is just doing right work. It's doing the work that was meant for you. I just talked with Rudy Ricksteins, and Rudy was talking about this, where he was saying that you were built for a specific purpose, and every single circumstance that you've gone through is perfect for what you're becoming. If you haven't experienced him, watch the podcast. He is absolutely phenomenal. Blew my mind. Absolutely tremendous human being. If you want to build people, you'll teach them to do the right thing. And teaching them to do the right thing is in verse 5, verse 21, verse 23, and 25. And I think that there was that many references because doing the right thing is so important. This comes from my friend, Gary Spellman. I hear his voice all the time. Just do the right thing. He said he was going to write a book, and it was going to be leather bound. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to have one page. You open up the book, said, do the right thing. And then at the end, it just said the end. That's it. Read that book all the time. He said that'd be the greatest book ever written. But the simplicity is a lot of times overlooked for the shiny, right? And so the next one is to walk in integrity. And what is integrity? It's just being the same in the dark as you are in the light. Whatever you do in the dark, it's going to come out in the light anyway. So just be conscious of what it is that you're doing in the dark, because people are going to find out. They'll find you, I promise you. And that's in verse 6, 16, and 22. And it also talks about prudence, which is just taking note of the future. Not only just today, that the way that it'll impact you today, but how can you look at these things and say, as I prudently look at it, that I have thought of the future. That's what prudence actually is. If you want to build people, you'll teach them to stay humble. And in verse 7 and 8, it talks about this in 3,000-year-old wisdom. This is the crazy thing. In Proverbs 13, it talks about this. In verse 7 and verse 8, it says, stay humble. For those of you who maybe don't read the Bible or haven't read Proverbs or anything like that, there's times where people kind of shy away from this and they're like, oh, wow, I don't want to read the Bible. That's religious and all this stuff. Then take the Bible out of it and just look at the principle. Stay humble. There's nothing wrong with staying humble, ever. There's nothing that's going to be bad about that. If you truly want to build people, you'll teach them to be a light. And being a light is verse 9 in Proverbs 13. 3,000-year-old wisdom has lasted the test of time. That's the reason why we want to study it and do the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. This was interesting because when I looked at this, it talked about being a light, and it talked about also being humble, but then it talked about humility. And that's the act, like acting, acting humble, acting that out. That humility is massive. And so it's funny because the way that God works, the sense of humor, he said, do humility. Don't. Insecurity leads to strife, leads to pride, leads to ego. If you have ego right now, which we all do, and I struggle with this at times, right? A lot of times. If we have ego, it generally came from pride. That pride came from strife, and that strife came from insecurity. So when we're insecure, we start striving to do something. Then we start to get pride about that situation, and then finally we go into protection mode and we gain a huge ego. This is where we get into challenges. So what it instructs us to do is just do humility all the time. If you want to build people, you'll teach them to be able to be to have humility and walk in it. Work your land. In verse 11, it talks about this, and you hear about this a lot in Proverbs, and it means so much to me because working your land is not looking to the left or to the right or what someone else is doing or comparing yourself or any of these things. It's just simply working your land. What is your purpose? What were you built for? And then working that like nobody else. And my brother told me this yesterday is a huge inspiration to me. He just said, man, make sure that you don't get too far away from your core, man. And, it was just that call out of saying, like, work your land, opportunities will come from that. But if you don't work your land, then you'll be going after all these opportunities and none of them will work because you weren't working your land. You're great at just being you, being exactly what you were purposed to be. And God gave you that. If you want to figure out your purpose, just just identify your gifts, then go give them away to the world. And when you do that, what'll start to happen is things will start to flow and you'll get in that flow state that people call, but it'll just be because you're working your land. And that is in verse 11. Protecting hope, this probably, whether it be in business, relationship, any of those things, the most important thing that you can ever protect is hope. Once your employees lose hope in the vision of what it is that you're doing, it's curtains. They've got a expiration date, as one of the girls that I used to work with would tell me. You put an expiration date on people when they don't have hope. So protect it at all costs. Make sure that you protect hope, and that's in verse 12 and 19. If you want to build people, you'll help them to have good judgment. Good judgment is in verse 15. Good judgment is to know what's right. How do we know what's right? By spending time with God. And when we spend time with God, guess what? He created us. He created us for a purpose. Then when we figure out what that purpose is, by spending time with him, then we'll continue to do the right thing, which is in that particular moment at that point in time. What's right for you at that time? How can we be righteous? How can we be just? How can we be wise? Simply just spend time with him, fear him, which means that you respect him, respect his character. How do you do that? See if his word and his actions are in line. And I can guarantee you they are. What God talks about, he actually delivers. He produces the desires of your heart. And then guess what? He gives them back to you. It's amazing that way. If you want to build people, you'll help them to be trustworthy. And that's in verse 17. And this is probably my pops' favorite. It wasn't my favorite. In verse 24, and I'm going to read this out to you. Verse 24 of Proverbs 13, it says, whoever spares the rod hates their children, but one who loves their children is careful to discipline. My dad beat us with the belt to that verse one time. He came home from church and he heard that verse and he just whooped me and my brother. Now, we didn't like it at the time, but I understand the concept. My dad was a little bit hot and cold. If you knew Pops, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He wasn't a guy that was lukewarm. He was either in or he was out. And I love him for that, but I did not love this verse, but I understand what it is. Verse 24 is that you invite discipline. You invite discipline. You invite discipline to be able to get better. But Pops, I didn't like the belt at all, bro. So I love you a bunch, and I know you're hanging with Jesus, but I tell you, that one, I'm gonna question him about. So it was crazy because as I sat down today to write this out, I thought that God was listing out a laundry list of all the things that I needed to go in and teach people to be able to build them. And then what I realized at the end is that this list is what I need to embody. And when I embody these characteristics, the people around me can see them in action. And if we truly want to build people, that's what we'll do, because things are caught, not taught. You see, when I sat down with Proverbs 13 and God said, build people. I was like, yes, I'm going to build people. I'm going to show them all what to do. And then he turned it around and said, no, son, this is what you need to be. All these things that we listed off, every one of these traits that we listed off: heed instruction, speak life, be diligent, do the right thing, walk in integrity, stay humble, be the light, walk in humility, work your land, protect hope, have good judgment, be trustworthy, and invite discipline. He said, son, that's for you. Because if you embody all those things, the things that people will catch by being around you will build them up. I guess it is true, Pops. What you taught me for my whole entire life: there's only one business in the world and one business only, and that's the people business. You take the people out of the business, you have no business at all. If you build the people and allow the people to build the business, the growth will be exponential. My name is Kelly Cardenas. This has been Inchstones. What I'm going to challenge you to do today is I want you to simply write a letter. Write a letter to someone who is valuable to you, who is important to you, but do this. Here's the system of it. Write down their name. Make sure that you address them with their name. Address them with at least 1 to 3 specific things that they did yesterday that you were blown away by, you were inspired by, or that lit you up. And then say love and write your name. Fold the letter up, hand it to them, see what happens. Plant that seed today, and it's incredible what can happen. The Vibe Room is coming. Like I said, July 23rd, it is sold out, so you're not able to, nobody else can get tickets. I want to thank the Sondor Real Estate Group, Kevin Borland, Packer Insurance, Patrick Packer, and Justin Williams with Sage Mortgage Advisors. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised.